Hey everybody, this is Ari in the air. I'm a paraglide pilot and filmmaker who makes videos right here on YouTube about how you can improve your skills in the air. If that's something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe. I can guarantee you won't regret it. Today, I want to share with you 5 tips for beginner paraglide pilots. Let's get right to it. See ya.
I'm paragliding!
See ya. Okay, so the first tip is something that you've all heard over and over, and that is kiting, the importance of kiting and ground handling. And I think that some people don't quite understand what this means and why it's so important. But in general, handling your glider on the ground is so helpful because being close to the ground is the most dangerous part of paragliding, right? The ground is hard and we are soft. That is a law that paragliders must come to realize. And as we learn how to fly, our launches can be the most dangerous part. So learning how to handle the glider on the ground can really mitigate a huge part of our risk. As well, when we learn how to handle the glider on the ground, we're literally learning how the glider flies, how it reacts, how it behaves, what happens when it collapses, what happens when you pull on this string, what happens when you pull on this string, right? All these different things are really important to get to know before you find yourself flying. A lot of people get bored of kiting really easily because all they do is they pull the glider up, they check it with the brakes, and then they set it down. They pull it up and they set it down. They pull it up and set it down. Of course that gets boring and you don't want to do that. But if you use resources like Andre Bandara's YouTube channel, he's super helpful and has all kinds of different activities and challenges to do. And groundhandlingchallenge.org is a great website. It has a whole list of things, lists of exercises and skills that you can do while kiting your glider to track your performance, track how much you know and how well you're doing it, as well as give you new ideas to practice while you're learning. So, the second tip that I have for you is mentorship. So, this one is so important, and if you imagine how airplane pilots come to be airplane pilots, it's through rigorous mentorship and very closely facilitated curriculum, right? In paragliding, we're much less regulated, but we still need that mentorship. We need people who are looking out for us, who are helping us learn things that we don't know and helping guide us to safety and to experience, right? So for a lot of you, it's going to look like hiring an instructor. And for others of you, it's going to look like becoming very deeply embedded in the community. Okay? But in general, you don't want to be the first to fly as a beginner. You don't want to fly by yourself. You don't want to invent new sites. You really need people guiding you who know what they're doing. And your behavior probably needs to be modified so those people will want to hang out with you, will want to share their experience with you, will want to guide you, all these things, right? So that's kind of a rabbit hole of its own. But it leads me to my third tip, which is read, watch, ask, listen, and learn. Do everything in your power to gain as much knowledge as you can. You need to read Dennis Pagan's Understanding the Sky. You need to watch YouTube videos where people are teaching like we're doing right now. You want to ask people at launch about the site and about the weather patterns and about their gliders and why they do certain things. And when you watch them fly, notice the nuance of what they're doing and where they're flying when, and ask questions and be a good listener and don't be combative and don't be arrogant, right? This is the way that you really soak up as much knowledge as you can in a short period of time. My fourth tip for you is log your flights. Logging your flights seems boring, but it's really, really important, especially through your first 500 hours or so. And I recommend that you log your flights, probably use something like Google Drive and use like a spreadsheet so that it's digital, you don't lose it. It's just like the cloud will keep track of it for you. But when you do this, it should be more of a journal than a logbook. It shouldn't be as simple as flew 1 hour, this site, this glider, because that doesn't really help you remember what you were learning. If you use it more like a journal and you write down the things that you did well, the things that you did poorly, the questions that you had in the air, the things that you noticed, and the observations of other pilots. Also, it's absolutely imperative that you write down any close calls, any incidents, and any accidents, and you write those out in detail. What your day was like before that happened, what you ate, how you felt, what your emotional well-being was like, what your relationships were like, how distracted you were, what you were thinking about, all these different factors that play into when we have a close call that are important to look at so that you can learn as much from those instances as you can. Because the reality is that as we learn paragliding, we're probably going to get a couple of free lessons. We're probably going to almost crash and not crash, and we're going to crash and not be hurt. And those things are really, really important to take seriously. You don't have to be arrogant that it was a fluke. You really want to take your time to squeeze as much learning out of those experiences as you possibly can. I can't stress this enough. My logbook started as fun, and then after I hit about 500 hours, I stopped logging anything that wasn't a near miss, a close call, an accident, or an incident. But now I log all of those every time, even if it's with another person, even if it's a different pilot and I just experience it through them and I see it. I still write about it because I want to learn from those things so they don't happen, right? Okay. Number 5 is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. If you can have a good perspective for your entire flying career, paragliding is not a sport that we age out of. We can do it until into our 80s. If you can see your whole career, then behaving in a way and flying in a way that keeps you healthy, that keeps you stoked, that keeps you learning, is going to be the fastest way to learn. If you are constantly biting off more than you can chew and getting scared, if you are constantly having near misses or accidents or incidents, if you are being arrogant and the community doesn't want to support your learning, these are all things that are going to slow you down in the long run. So you definitely want to see with as much perspective as you can your entire career and behave in a way and learn in a way that supports your growth over that entire period of time without short-sightedness or arrogance, right? And I'm going to give you one bonus tip here. This is number 6, and that is self-knowledge. I know this is a weird one. I don't think there's anyone else out there talking about this on YouTube for paraglide pilots, but knowing yourself, knowing your motivations is really, really critical to staying safe under a paraglider. And I'll explain why. Basically, if you are running away from your intimate relationships and want to seek paragliding as an outside thrill, that's not a good motivation. If you are stuck in a dead-end job and you seek paragliding as an outside thrill, that's probably not a good motivation. There are things that you can be running from that will lead you into paragliding that won't make paragliding a healthy decision for you. And these are hard things to come to terms with, but for most people, they're things that aren't considered. So considering your motivations, why you want to learn paragliding, it's extremely dangerous. It's something that you can die doing, so it's important to look at your motivations for doing it. Obviously, if you knew some base jumper who kind of had some self-hatred deep down and wanted to take excessive risks base jumping, that would be unhealthy. And if he could only see his own trauma and wounding in that was pushing him to take such huge risks in his sport, then maybe his friends would say, hey, you might want to figure that out outside of base jumping. And the same thing goes for paragliding. You want to know yourself. Some things that you can do that are easy and fun to do this are take personality tests like the Myers-Briggs or the Enneagram test. They're free online. You can just do a little quiz and it'll tell you some things that as you read through them, I'm sure they will be insightful as to your character and your personality and might help you understand your motivations a little bit better. Also, things like meditation, journaling, therapy, these are all really good ways to know yourself and be in a centered place that you can actually take a sport into your life like paragliding that's dangerous, addictive, and awesome, and be able to hold it in a place in yourself that actually is sustainable, that's healthy, that gives as much to you as it can give. And there are so many of us who have had our lives changed by paragliding, and paragliding has so much to give. So I want its gifts to land in you in fertile soil. So I encourage you to do that kind of inner work as you dive into paragliding. Okay? I hope these tips are helpful. If you need help with gear or instruction, you can email me at airintheair@gmail.com and I'll help you get sorted. I've had a bunch of people ask me all about all kinds of different gliders. I'm happy to answer your questions even if you don't buy a glider from me, but I really appreciate those of you who have bought those. I give great deals to my YouTube subscribers, so hit me up. Thanks so much. We'll see you on the next episode.